Welcome back, my friends in grade 6. Today we will start a new lesson about the transfer of heat, chapter 5, lesson 2. In this lesson we are going to know and learn about the methods of heat transfer within an object or between objects. Before we start the lesson, we have to know the meaning of heat and thermal energy. In the beginning of the year, we have said that the three states of matter contain particles. These particles can move. For example, if we talk about the gas state, we said that the particles in any gas can move freely in all directions, so the particles can move. And even in the liquid state, the particles can slide past each other, so they can move too. What about the solid state? We said also that the particles in solid state can vibrate in place, so they can move too, even if this movement is limited, but they at last move. So this means that all the particles in all the states of matter can move. As a result of this moving or movement, a kind of energy is produced which is called thermal energy, This transfer of thermal energy between the particles of an object or even between two objects, whether these two objects are in touch or far away from each other, this is called heat. So heat is the transfer of thermal energy from warmer object to a cooler object. And thermal energy is the total energy stored in the particles in an object, as we said, as a result of the movement of these particles. Hey there, I have said in the definition of heat is that the heat is transferred from warmer object to cooler object. Right, am I, or the opposite is correct? Imagine that you have two cups. One cup that contains very hot water and the other cup contains cold water. So if you have mixed these two cups together, what would happen to the temperature of the produced water? Would it be cool? No. The temperature of the produced water will be medium between this and this, between the cold water and the hot water. Why? Because the temperature or the heat transferred from the hot water to the cold water, and the resulting mixture of water is with medium temperature. As you see here, these are some sources of thermal energy or heat transfer from the candle on the right side or from the sun. Now we are going to talk about the mechanisms of heat transfer. The heat transfer can occur by one of the three methods or even by the three methods in one time. These three methods are conduction, convection, radiation. Again, conduction, convection, and radiation. As you see here, there is a pan that contains water. This pan is exposed to stove or high temperature from the stove. After some time, you will notice that the water starts to bubble or boil. Why? It means that the thermal energy has been transferred from the stove itself to the pan, and by turn to the water inside the pan, and even it will be transferred to the handle of the pan, so you can feel it when you touch the handle of this pan. So here we have three types of heat transfer. How is the heat transferred from the stove itself to the pan, and from the pan to water, and between the particles of water, and from the pan to the handle of the pan, and by turn to your hand? And how do you feel the temperature around or surrounding this pan? Is it hot? For sure it's hot, which means that the heat is transferred to the surrounding medium around the pan. The first way of heat transfer is called conduction. Conduction, which means that heat can transfer from one particle of matter to another within an object. It means that inside the same object or between two objects that are in touch. Or between two objects that are in touch. And touch means that they have to be adjacent to each other. They are in touch. They are beside each other. So the heat is transferred from one particle to the next, to the third, and so on, until it reaches the last part of this object. This method of heat transfer conduction is more common in solids. For example, if you have touched the pan here, as in this picture, if you have touched the handle of the pan, the body of the pan itself is hot. So the heat is transferred from the pan or the body of the pan to the handle, then to your hand. All of these are, for example, from the pan to the handle, this is one object. All of this is the pan, part of the pan. Okay, from the handle to your body or to your hand, it means that these two objects are in touch. They are in touch. That's why the heat is transferred here by conduction, because there are two solids that are one piece of or one object, particles within the same object, or two objects which are in touch, Conduction is the transfer of heat from one particle of matter to another within an object or between two objects that are in contact. Again, conduction is the transfer of heat from one particle of matter to another within an object or the same object or between two objects that are in contact. Here, my friends, are some examples for heat transfer by conduction. On the left side, here there is a mug that contains hot liquid, whatever it is, tea, coffee, whatever. And you have let the spoon inside the mug. What would you notice when you touch the spoon? Is it hot or not? Yes, it's hot. How is it hot, or how can you feel the heat of the spoon? Yes, because the spoon is in touch or in contact with the water inside the mug or with the mug itself, and then your hand comes and be in contact with the spoon, so the heat is transferred by conduction. As we said, that this is more common in solids, within the same object or between two touching objects or two objects in contact. Here in the second picture, the same. Here there is a pan. This pan is hot, and the handle of the pan is hot too. When you touch the handle of the pan, you will notice that it's too hot. What kind of heat transfer that occurs here? Yes, this is conduction. Because the particles of the pan that carry heat, well, they will pass the heat to the handle, and from the handle to your hand. All of these are objects that are in contact or in touch. In the picture below, this is the explanation of how the heat is transferred by conduction. As you see here, on the right side, here, this is the high temperature, or the part of the object that contains more thermal energy. The particles will start to pass this thermal energy from this particle to the next, until it reaches the cooler part of the object. That's why we say that heat is transferred from the hot object to the cold object, right? And here the particles pass the thermal energy from the particle with high thermal energy to the next, until it reaches the last part, or the part with low thermal energy.